Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Black Sheep. I am your host, Keziah, and it is so good to be back in front of the mic. It's been a minute. I don't know how long, depends on when I post this, but yeah, second episode. I got a lot of good feedback on the first one, so I just want to say I'm really grateful for that. And yeah, it's been an interesting few days. I'm all dressed up in the middle of the night because I came back from the city, Dublin City. I can't even lie, guys. It's getting to a point where if you don't like food and you don't like to drink, there's nothing to do in that city. I literally walked the entire city and all I managed to accomplish was buy myself some leggings from Penny's and eat food. That's it. That's quite literally it, and everything else costs a fortune to do. So yeah, Dublin's got a pattern up, it's just not ideal at all. But what else have I been up to? I've been getting ready for college. We're going back to uni. I start a bit earlier because it's my master's, and I know masters always start earlier than undergrad, so it's just looking a bit rough. But I'm excited at the same time. It's like a brand new territory for me, so I'm just excited to step into it and just see what it's like. I'll probably talk more about my education in a future episode, but we'll just leave it at I'm doing my master's for now. If you know, you know. If you don't know, you'll get to know. What else have I been up to? Right. Okay, the topic of this podcast. If you guys don't know, I love TikTok and I love my For You page. It has a lot of brain rot on there. I'll be real. It's a little crazy over there, but I will say there's a lot of valuable information and quotes and just think pieces that just, stir me up, and I just love it. I love opening it up and finding out new things. And there's a quote that really has not left my head, and I'm surprised it hasn't because I saw it a few months ago. I'm gonna take this headphone off because I can't lie, it's making me speak way too loud. I'm almost tempted to take it off entirely. Oh, look at my hair, guys. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. I don't have blonde hair anymore. I've had blonde hair all summer, but since we're getting into autumn, gotta take the afro out. I'm saying that, but I've booked my braids already. I usually do my own hair, but I've booked my braids because my graduation's coming up. Okay, I'm sidetracking. We'll talk about that when it happens. Okay, I was saying that with quotes lasting so long in my mind, it means that I need to speak about them because things that really strike my mind, sometimes they can diffuse out of my head awfully quickly, and then I don't get a chance to really articulate them or even dissect them and see what they really mean. And this quote is really interesting. I've scripted it in my journal. Well, not the journal I showed you in the last episode. It's a new one, new character unlocked. This is still one of many. And look, guys, honestly, I'm so good at picking out journals. I'm gatekeeping this one. Psych, I just got it on Amazon. I can't lie. If you just find paperback floral copies, if you search that into Amazon, I'm sure you'll find loads. Anyways, let me show you the quote that I've been thinking about. I can't lie, I will warn you, I'm quite tired as it is late. I've just come home, so my brain's a little, so not too much, okay? Yeah. The quote reads, "It's not humility to shrink and deprive the world of all that you are." That's a word. Now, listen, this is a very multi-layered statement. I was trying to dissect it in my own brain with all the ways that it could be interpreted. I've come up with two, one which I agree with and one which I do not. I was thinking of that last part, all that you are. The all that you are could just be the essence of your being, how much you've advanced and evolved as a human being, and you want to prove to the world how much you've grown. But if you look at the first half of the sentence, right, saying that people sometimes mistake humility for depriving people of your point of view and your experiences because they are deemed as lesser than, I guess. And I interpret it as kind of it's quite difficult to articulate, but I've viewed it as that there's so much that society wants to prove to you regarding how little you've advanced and how little you've grown, and how there's so many steps that you need to take and so much advice that you need to take from society to make sure that you don't make the same mistake and that you can actually fulfill your real purpose in the eyes of the society. I don't know if that fully makes sense, but I guess the more I speak about it, the more I hope that what I'm saying is clearer to you listeners and you watching as well. But yeah, overall, I think that this quote is talking about people who internalize external opinions and they fold them into their personality, and until it becomes their new personality and their original personality is no more, kind of diluting yourself to fit the mold that people have set for you. And I kind of touch on that in episode 1 a little bit, but I want to specifically talk about this in episode 2. I want to break down the quote right down to the bone marrow. Like, I want to get right into it. What is the textbook definition of humility? English. Anyways, what is the textbook definition of humility, and why does it always have something to do with taking on someone else's opinions or experiences or ideas or advice because your experiences are not valid enough for the person that you are? Hence why it's shrinking the person that you are, or depriving the world of everything that you are, because everything that you are is not enough. I don't agree with that. What does it mean to be humble? I have the definition written down. Let's have a little read. Humble/humility. To have a modest or low viewpoint of one's importance. Listen, I know Oxford probably made it up. I know it probably makes sense. And I know that a lot of people coin the term humility in order to better your life and to make you a better person. But from the jump, using that word as like the face of the human experience of accepting advice from other people, using humility as like the ideal outcome for when someone is offering you advice is extremely problematic, because one, you don't always have to take the advice that's given to you, and two, if you decide not to take that advice, why does it then negate any humility that you have in your life? Why does it then have negative connotations? Why are you then called selfish or inconsiderate or arrogant or proud or prideful as a result of that? You know, it's very confusing to me. So off the bat, the rhetoric just does not sit well with my spirit, because I don't really believe that the concept of elevating your life thanks to this is really like difficult to articulate, especially on my own, but let me try again. The concept of elevating your life thanks to somebody else's, opinion or somebody else's advice and guidance is a beautiful thing, and it's a necessary thing. We don't have all the answers, okay? When I say other people, I'm not referring to maybe a higher being, like praying to God or praying to Allah, praying to Jesus or whoever it is, or meditating, trying to search for the higher power's wisdom. I think putting them on the same scale as the human mind is quite insulting. So I'm not talking about them. I'm simply talking about advice from humans to other humans. It is, regardless, still a necessary process in life. We're not going to progress anywhere if we think that we know it all. I'm not really promoting the idea of knowing everything in this world, but what I'm saying is the idea or the concept that your life may have elevated because of somebody else's advice or somebody else's guidance. It doesn't negate your prior experiences. It doesn't negate the decisions that you made in the past, as the textbook definition says. It doesn't make them of any lower importance. It doesn't mean that you should view your previous experiences as less important, because they got you to where you are today. They got you up to a certain point in your life, and yes, sometimes you just hit a standstill, you hit a ceiling, and you need to look outside for some opinions, and that's okay. However, I think that some people maybe suffer from discernment and being able to take what applies and leave what doesn't. And then what happens is they start to formulate and recalibrate their entire human experience around the words of people who intrinsically do not know them. No matter how many people you've grown up with, or how long you've grown up with certain people, or how much they've seen you flourish or have seen all the hardships that you go through, no matter how many experiences you share with each other, we don't know each other like that. We don't. If you cannot crawl into my brain and explore my mind and navigate and highlight certain thoughts that I have, then you do not know me, and therefore the advice that you cater towards me, you may be catering it towards the experiences that you've seen from a third person view, from the outside looking in, but you've not seen the intellectual or the mental process of me experiencing those things for you to then create perfect advice that will not lead me astray in any way. And that's where discernment kicks in, where you have to acknowledge that that person is speaking sometimes from a place of good, sometimes not, and I'll get into that later. But you need to be able to select what may or may not apply and leave what doesn't. I feel like a lot of us do not have that. you hone it as you get older, but I think it's a good practice to start from a younger age, because you'll then find yourself, I think from my experience anyway, I found myself in a lot of existential crises. Oh my gosh, like what even is my life? And like, who even am I? Am I myself, or am I just these experiences and the advice that people told me? Am I my personality, or has it been curated by listening to every single piece of advice that anyone has ever told me? I become a sponge, just soaking in every bit of advice I can get, because I don't have the confidence to believe that I can curate my life for myself, or that I can select the pieces of advice that may suit me. I believe that I can't select the pieces of conversations that I've had with people and formulate a more ideal and personalized human experience for myself. You need to have that confidence in yourself to be able to do that. Otherwise, you're treading down a very slippery slope of just not having a personality. You just kind of become a puppet in somebody else's show, and whether intentionally or unintentionally, some people can do that if all they're doing is advising you based on things that they know and not the things they know about you. Like I said, we all know that there's levels to accepting advice. It can be a very, very beautiful experience to speak to people and seeing it flourish and seeing it manifest in your life exactly how it needs to and exactly how you envisioned it. I know my parents have poured so much into my life based on the advice and the guidance that they've given me, and a lot of what I have today in terms of my character and of my merit and of my morals, I hand it to them realistically, because they raised me based on how they knew me and the experiences that they were seeing from a third person view. However, when we come back to the quote, when they say it's not humility to shrink and deprive the world of all that you are, it kind of means that when you place your identity in the hands of people who don't intrinsically know you, that's not being humble. That's not practicing humility. That's being overly submissive, for want of a better word. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm not trying to be harsh, but that's the reality of it. I think that there's something really dangerous about being overly vulnerable to criticism and overly soft and malleable and easy to manipulate, because someone with good intention, their intention can turn very evil very quickly, not because of them, but because of you. You're taking that advice and you're taking it verbatim and you're not applying it to the current situation that you're in, and what you're doing is creating a brand new personality because you don't have one of your own, or rather you don't have a strong enough character of your own, so you try and form a new one around the advice that you're being given. So that is harmful. And then on top of that, you have people who have malicious, terrible intent that want to see you absolutely discombobulated, and they'll give you the craziest advice knowing that it's going to lead you down a path that is not destined for you, but you don't have the discernment to see that, and you don't have the skills to distinguish what makes sense and what doesn't. And that's something that I see way too much, not just in like my first-hand actual life from the outside looking in, but like on social media. There are very harmful examples of that, and I'm going to go through a few of them now because I've seen them, I've taken note of them, and I feel like I need to highlight them here. I just think at the end of the day, there's a difference between taking advice and then almost kind of yearning for it. When I say yearning for advice, it can come from a place of being very, very lost. Being lost can be something as simple as, oh, I don't know how to solve this question anymore. Oh, I don't know what exact course I want to do in college anymore. I need to talk to someone who's done this course before, or I need to talk to my parents who know how passionate I am about this and this and this, and maybe they can lead me down the right path. That's normal. That's expected. But then you have people who are very impressionable, young people, teenagers, teenage boys in particular, who are just entering into adolescence and trying to figure out what it means to be a man in today's society. They stumble upon the words of the worst possible expectations for men, the worst possible examples of masculinity that there are, and that is far right, red pill, conservative male content. Oh, just saying it gives me goosebumps, because it's like, how are these people still allowed on the internet? How have community guidelines not wiped out every single page that spews this rhetoric? And why are people not seeing how it's destroying our teenage boys? Like, I see women who complain on the internet and cry that they've raised such a polite and gentle boy, and then as soon as they get on TikTok, within 6 months, everything that they may have been conditioned with in their childhood goes out the window, because in that age as well, you do kind of become a sponge to whatever it is you are ingesting, and sometimes it's the wrong stuff, like all this Andrew Tate-esque content. I'm tired. It's creating all of these identical incel archetypes where it's like, oh, women just want your money. Women are gold diggers. We hate women. But at the same time, we want the hourglass, super skinny, perfect skin woman. We want her to stay at home and do the cooking and the cleaning. But also, don't say a single word, because who cares what the femoids think, okay? Yes, apparently femoid is a word. I don't know, guys. I'm getting old. Like, I'm only 21, but still, like, I'd hear these words and they're so foreign to me, and I'm just like, how did we get here? Why is this being pushed so far? It's actually really, really alarming. I don't like it, guys. It makes me uncomfortable. Like when you watch those UK black boy street interviews and it's like, oh, what you like in a girl? What you like in a girl? And they're like, big back. And she needs to look like Ash Cash and Ice Spice. And oh, guys, it's really scary how predictable these kids are becoming, because they're all becoming prototypes of each other. I it's really scary. We can talk about this in another episode in depth, but that's one of the really scary ways that not knowing who you are can, absolutely warp the way that you perceive things in your everyday life. And though these boys are not seeing it as humility, when you look at that textbook definition of humility, that's exactly what they're doing. The way that they were raised and the way that they viewed life and their viewpoints beforehand are now deemed as unimportant, or rather less important than the validation that they get from fitting in with their friends or assimilating to the culture that exists on social media right now, which is incel red pill culture. I mean, the jokes write themselves, but nobody's laughing. This is not funny. It's quite alarming. Now, even though it does raise alarms in my mind and in the minds of parents and older siblings who are watching their younger siblings crumble in the hands of people like Andrew Tate, who don't give a molecule of a heck about these kids, and all they care about is lining their pockets, even though he really should be in jail. But like, also, please don't come for me, like, not too much. I will fight you. No, I wouldn't. I can't fight for shit. But still, like, I'm just saying, it's a very sinister world to exist in and to be consistently consuming. So I understand why these kids become this way, but there's also a lot of innocent, more is invisible the word? Not really. But like the whole thing about confusing humility with being overly submissive and being a pushover or being desperate for external validation, it can be seen in a lot of very subtle ways. And one of them is, I don't know if you guys know about it, but if you are on TikTok or if your For You page is this way inclined, you probably know about eyebrow blindness. Okay, I'll explain what it is for people who don't know. Eyebrow blindness is this trend that came up on TikTok maybe a few months ago, where people reflected on their ways that they used to do makeup back in the day, and how a lot of girls used to draw their eyebrows very, very thick. And they would say that maybe they were suffering from eyebrow blindness back in the day because they were blind to the fact that their eyebrows were so bushy or so thick or too wavy or whatever. And the trend was just all lighthearted. People were looking back at the way they put their blush on. Like, I know for sure I had eyeliner blindness, if we want to call it that, because like if you saw my makeup in maybe 2020, 2021, I had like big black eyeliner. And like, honestly, I think 16-year-old me, she kind of ate. 17-year-old me, she ate at the time. She did what she needed to do. But would I do it now? No. So like, it's just funny to laugh at and reflect on. But it's turned into something that's it's getting a little weird. And this is why we can't have nice things. Because I feel like on TikTok, it's just, trends don't stay very normal for long. It always turns into something that it doesn't need to be. And that's exactly what's happened with this eyebrow blindness trend. Like, we're finding people, young girls, maybe in their teens, but we also have people who are fully like in their 30s, as in prefrontal cortex been developed, and you see them saying, oh my gosh, guys, can you tell me what blindness I have? Huh? What do you mean? And then they want people to be like, oh, you have eyebrow blindness, your brows are too thin, you should fill them in. Or like, oh my gosh, you have tan blindness, you should get a spray tan, like you look really pale. And then you have like, oh my gosh, you have lip blindness, your lips are literally paper thin, get lip filler. What is actually going on? Like, we're actually asking people what we should do to our own opinion. See how it's like actually screwing with my head. I can't comprehend this. I literally have to press not interested every time I see one, because it's just like, it actually makes me so uneasy, because it's like, you're putting your whole appearance, that's something that's very sacred, very intimate. Like, people don't actually realize how your appearance plays such a big role in how you perceive yourself and also how you navigate the world around you. For you to be so like, I'm not criticizing the girls, right? I don't know if it's even coming from a place of insecurity. I think it's just coming from a subconscious need to fit society's mold of what a good looking person is. So you're thinking, what better place to ask than the pinnacle of society, the forum of society, TikTok comment sections, Instagram reels, the two worst places you could probably ask for anyone's opinions. What do you think the comments look like? It was absolutely disgusting to see how openly and brutally honest these people were, and it actually made me physically uncomfortable. This need to ask strangers to elevate your look. Like, are we going... I don't know if it's just because maybe I'm just vain and I'm just like, who are you to know what looks good on my face? I'll do what I want. But I feel like, shouldn't we all kind of have that mindset? I don't know. Like, I was looking at the TikTok comment section. I was trying to write down some of the things that I was seeing on there. And like, I don't even want to regurgitate what I saw, because it's actually just nasty. And it's like, okay, so we go back to the original statement. It's not humility to shrink and deprive the world of who you are. When we talk of the textbook version of humility, how do you apply that when someone's telling you that you're butt ugly and you need to change this, and this? Do you have to be humble in that situation and be like, no, you are right. Yeah, you're right. I am ugly. I am gonna change that. Thank you for that. Like, guys, maybe it is coming from a place of insecurity. Not insecurity in your looks. Insecurity in the person that you are. Like, do you not think that you are not the most equipped to know what's best for you and your appearance, or you and your face? Like, in 2020, I loved me some black eyeliner, and in that moment, based on my aesthetic at the time, it matched perfectly for the time that I was living in, the state of mind that I was in. It was perfect for the time. And then it also got to a point where I said, I don't want to do that anymore. That's not who I am anymore. So let me shift into something else. And I changed my makeup style. I changed the way that I dress. I elevated my look in ways that I needed to for the time, because I have the confidence in myself to know that I know what's best. And like, if I get someone saying, oh, Keziah, maybe you should try doing a so-and-so lip color, or like my friend saying, oh, you should try like a light pink blush as a little transitional shade between your powder and your red blush. And now that's something that I always do, and I love it, and that's great. Taking what applies and leaving what doesn't, you know? Not going online and asking these people, oh my god, guys, what should I do to my face? Tell me right now, because I don't have any faith in myself to know what looks good on me. Guys, this is really crazy. This is really, really crazy. Like, there is a sweet sisterly sentiment behind asking for physical appearance advice, but like, heavy on the sisterly, as in friends, as in sisters, as in people who actually know you. Because like I said, your appearance is something that's very intimate. Only the people who really know you or have some sort of idea of the essence of who you are will be able to give somewhat viable advice. But when these sisters are a bunch of private accounts with black screens, it goes from being a sweet sentiment to a very, very sour one. And I don't like that for y'all. I really don't, because it's like, okay, if you block them, then they come into your next video and they're like, I told you to get lip filler and you blocked and deleted my comment. You're arrogant as hell. You think you're all that. You think you're this. You think you're that. You're not as humble as these people expected you to be in the face of all of this criticism. Hence why I say humility should not be the face of the experience of asking for advice, because it's very okay to just be like, actually, no, this doesn't apply. Thank you, though. But no. Thanks. But no. It's very easy to say that in principle, but the way that a lot of people have been conditioned, it almost like makes their skin itch at the thought of not completely following and obeying what people tell them to do in terms of like very superficial things like this, you know? Like, obviously, if you're a kid and you're living with your parents, I'm not saying like if your parents say, oh, I don't want to see you eating all that sugar, Don't start quoting me and being like, actually, Keziah said that take what applies and leave what doesn't. And I actually love eating sugar. So screw you. I beg, shut up and put the sugar down. Okay? I'm not asking you to go and rebel against your parents or whatever. That's not what I'm asking you to do. I'm talking about very superficial, almost kind of minute things, just because I like to explore things a little bit deeper than they may actually be. Because honestly, maybe by the time I post this, the whole eyebrow blindness thing will go to the bin and it'll be over with and no one will be talking about it anymore. But I want to talk about it, so I sure will. Okay, moving on. It's gonna have to get to a point, guys, where we start, or we rather stop asking ourselves, how do I implement this advice into my life? And then we start asking ourselves, does this advice, or can this advice integrate into my life? Will it integrate into my life? If not, let it go. See how many times I'm blinking? Stop trying to fit things where they don't fit. If the advice is not making sense, graciously thank the person for thinking about you and move on. Please. I feel like I'm screaming down the microphone, but I feel like I need to tell people this because I'm literally seeing so many people my age who are flipping miserable because they're just like, oh my god, I just want to be, I just don't want to be hated. I don't want controversy. I don't want drama. Bro, you make 90% of the rules that run your life. You make 90% of the rules that run your life. They are based on social norms, and they are based on morals, and they are based on principles that you carry through from youth to adolescence to adulthood. Understood? But the threshold for which you tolerate certain advice or tolerate certain people or the undertones through which they speak, that's on you. That's on you. It's not on anyone else to decide that for you. So if you're going to sit here and let other people and just put yourself in the palm of other people who don't know you, I'm so sorry. Humans are not perfect. If you're putting yourself in the hands of God, or, at the hands of a higher being, or at the mercy of Allah, right? That is understood because through your belief, you believe that those all powerful higher beings have the strength to carry you through all of your hardship. And I think that's so beautiful and so comforting. But I'm talking about humans here. We are fragile. We are flawed. Someone is going to trip and fall, and the first thing they're going to do, their hands are going to come up and cover their face because they need to cover their ass and make sure that they don't get hurt. Guess what's going to happen to you? You're going to fly out of their hand. You kept yourself safe in the palm of their hand thinking that you're going to entrust them to know exactly what to tell you with your life. When their life goes to shit, they're not thinking about you anymore. You go flying. Where are you going to land? Goodness knows, but it's going to be far away from where you're supposed to be. Far, far away. So you better put yourself in the hands of God, or you put yourself in the hands of yourself. We're equipped to know just enough and to acquire just enough information to get us from the start of this life to the end of it. Trust in that. Lean into that. And trust your intuition to know when certain advice applies and when certain advice simply does not. Moving on. I'm out of breath. I'm gonna pass out. This topic is so passionate to me that I'm almost passing out in my room. So you guys better listen. This better be worth it. Oh, I'm not talking about listening in terms of you better run this up and get views. I mean that if you think this advice applies to you, you better apply it, okay? Otherwise all of this would be in vain, and I'm about to pass out. So I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna take a breath. Ooh. At the end of the day, if you decide to go and get full volume Russian classic, I don't know the names, but the really thick eyelashes that some of the girlies be eating, and then you get some people who are like, oh my god, your eyelashes make you look like a whore. Are you gonna go and take off those eyelashes because those people told you that? It'd be a bit weird if you did, because honestly, like I said, these people don't be knowing you like that. To you, those eyelashes could be an ode to your inner child who was not allowed to wear makeup growing up, and now that you're grown up, you can do whatever you want and no one's gonna rip them off your eyes. So again, when these people are making these comments, remind yourself, who's going to be navigating life with your eyelashes? Think about who has them on, and maybe you'll actually tell them to shut up. Because what's it to them? I'd be admiring them from a distance. Not like my opinion really should matter, but I like them. So I think you should keep doing it. And that's just a small example of just doing what you want. Not just doing what you want, but knowing that it is the best call that you can take for yourself in that moment. Okay, so the third and final thing that I want to talk about, this one's a little bit of a touchy one because it may or may not apply to some people that I know of or that I just observe very closely, right? The whole wallflower thing. If you watch episode 1, then you know. If not, get to know. But influencers, right? Or rather, influencers in the making, up and coming influencers. There's an epidemic of a lot of you wanting to become influencers or content creators because you want to step out of the corporate prison that vacuums any ounce of creativity that exists in you, because who needs that when all we need is for you to be a robot and regurgitate exactly what we need from you? Fairs. But a lot of you are becoming exactly what you're trying to avoid because you lose faith in why you started in the first place. Let me cook. Let me explain. Hold on. Don't fight me. Don't bite me, please. When you have a creative block or like a creative funk and you're wondering what kind of content to post next or what kind of art you want to create, I understand that it's very overwhelming. It's very draining to try and do all of that by yourself. But I'm seeing way too many people ask this question way too often to their audience, and I feel like it is always the detriment to their progress, and it is the orchestrator of their failure. And that is, what do you guys want to see from me next? Let me know in the comments below what you want to see. Can you swipe up and tell me what content you want to see from me? Oh, that question. I like the question because sometimes I have content creators that I love watching. I'd love to see them do a certain type of thing. But that question, when you ask it one too many times, you are killing your progress. To me, I'm no social media expert, okay? But from someone who is a creative person, I can kind of empathize with wanting to know what your audience wants to see so that you can cater to your audience. But how do I say this? People on social media, myself included, viewers, scrollers, Instagrammers, TikTokers, YouTubers have the attention of small children. Small children. Children on Christmas Day who get a shit ton of brand new toys, and by December 27th, the pieces are missing and they're in the bin and they're already looking at what they want for their birthday. Yeah. Long story short, the mind span of these people and their interest levels are quite transient. They can come and give you hella engagement for a couple of months, and then they can find the next shiny new doll on the shelf literally within a heartbeat. And if you have not created that connection with your audience for you to appeal to them and for them to stay, and 2, if you have not fortified the foundation of your channel with a strong character that resonates with you and maintaining your authenticity, then you stand the chance of developing maybe a very big platform, but one that is very, very superficial based on the fact that you have become a puppet for all of these people's desires. They are playing you in their show of things that they want to see, not because of you, but because you offered yourself to them. I see it way too often, and I'm just going to ask a question. For all of you who were on TikTok in 2019, 2020, where's the hype house at right now? They had some of the biggest TikTok influencers in the game all living in one content house and spewing out content every single day and getting a bunch of views because of the allure and the interest of being in the exclusive hype house. And then eventually those people, because they had not created any real identity for themselves other than just being affiliated to the hype house or just being straight, white, conventionally attractive men and women, people kind of forget about you and they move on to the next batch. Like, I'm not even trying to be rude, you know? You're basing your platform off of strangers who half of them might not even follow you to begin with, so it's not even like you're benefiting from creating this content, because the same people who are advising you to create this content may never view your page again. But like I said, they are puppeteering you in a direction that they want you to go in, and they're enjoying it, and you're enjoying the fruits of your labor. You're working so hard to make sure you're appealing to these people, but you've now almost started to lose yourself, because it's like, why do you start this in the first place? Are you really happy with just doing what these people ask of you just because they say so? And is it humility to just graciously do it even though you don't want to? I don't think so, because then that's also just negating any previous creative ideas that you had or any creative endeavors that you may have wanted to do but just didn't get the views or the engagement. You're just saying, oh, then I'm not that good at that. Is it that you're not good enough at it, or it's because you don't have the confidence to convince people that you are good at it? Because there's a lot of people I also see on TikTok. I won't reference any names just because I don't want lawsuits. Like, I don't got money like that, okay? Not yet. Wait on me. But I don't got money like that, okay? So I'm not going going to dip my toe where the sharks are going to come and bite me. But, you know, I'm not trying to dip my toe where I don't need to be, but there's a lot of content creators that, like, they may have started off a bit slower, yeah, but they're now making a living out of exactly what they wanted to do and exactly what they were meant to do, because they convinced people that this is what they need to do with their life. This is what they wanted for themselves, and people just had to believe it or not. Believe it and you benefit, or you leave it and you regret not believing in it sooner, because now you look like a dickhead. That person was right all along. They know their sauce, they know what they bring to that table, and shit, the table's full of food and you can't eat because you didn't believe in it in the first place. And I just think everyone should have that almost delusional confidence in themselves to know that they know what's best for them. Obviously, taking what applies and leaving what doesn't. Like, if you're doing fashion content and someone says, oh, I'd love to see you wear this brand, absolutely, but style it in your own way, in a way that's still familiar to your brand and your personality. And that way you're integrating who you are into your content, and that's what makes people stay, because they're seeing the authenticity. Like, we're not stupid, we see it. So yeah, that's all I have to say on that one, I guess. Now, I've done a lot of complaining and a lot of giving out pretty much this whole episode, so I'm sorry if I was shouting a little bit. I don't mean no harm. I'm just passionate about seeing people elevate themselves, you know? And it almost feels like I'm speaking to a past version of myself, or even a future version if I decide to go look back on this for some sort of, you know, wisdom and guidance. Let me actually not. I'm gonna cut this out. I cut myself out. What does that even mean? But yeah, anyways, I feel like I've done a lot of giving out this episode. I am sorry. Actually, I'm not sorry. I don't give a heck. That's almost kind of like feeding into what I just said there. Like, why am I sorry? If you don't like me screaming at you down the mic, you can leave. You can leave after the first scream, but here you still are. You're still here. You still watch it all. So, Anyway, sorry. Who am I fighting with? Who am I beefing with? My phone? Like, scary. Guys, I really need to leave this room, because it's like, how much more can I keep doing this to myself? Anyway. Now, who am I sorry to? Who am I sorry? I'm only speaking facts. I'm only speaking based on my experience at the same time. So it's like, if you don't like it, well, sure, look, that's your experience and that's mine, and life goes on. But I will say that this conversation didn't just come entirely out of nowhere. One thing that people don't know about me is that for some reason, like at the start of every year, there's always this really big, deep philosophical question that comes up out of nowhere. And it's not something that I set a goal for myself. It kind of just happens. And the one in 2022 going into 2023, the big question I was asking myself was, if I listen to every single piece of advice that's given to me, even though I know that some of this is going to make me resentful in the long run, and I know that this isn't what I want to do, is forfeiting that advice being selfish and being inconsiderate? Would that be coined as that? Would that be coined as being disingenuous and being selfish? I'm not sure. So it stems from, if I have to open up a little bit, I came back home from my Erasmus, like living alone and having my own space and not really having to answer to anybody. It was a completely different experience. Not like I had much of a difficult experience at home, but I would say that I'm a very opinionated person, and I can be real, to be transparent. It does transcend into my relationship with my family. There are advices that they give me, and they're absolutely for my good. 9 times out of 10 they work perfectly, but there's always that 1 time out of 10 where I know it does not make sense for me. And it's like, whether or not I graciously accept this to be humble, or do I graciously reject it and maybe be perceived otherwise. And it's a battle that I faced a lot coming back home, because that stark contrast between absolute silence and then having to answer to people. Like, obviously as a late teen, you crave that freedom and you crave that, like, you know, don't tell me anything, I know exactly what I'm doing, don't criticize me, blah, 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 blah. And I'm also a very, like, I can be a very defensive person too, something that I can again get into in a future episode, but it's definitely a question that rung in my head all through the year. I was battling with it a lot. I went between just blindly accepting every single piece of advice, but that leaving me quite bitter and quite resentful actually, and I harbored a lot of pent up frustration with doing that. But I think the conclusion that I drew at the end of that year was, like I said throughout this episode, take what applies and leave what doesn't. However, use discernment and know who you're speaking to and who's speaking to you. When I'm speaking about my parents, right, I'm not speaking to people who have difficult relationships with theirs, or abusive relationships, or that you don't speak to them, or that they're not here anymore, nor am I speaking to a level where it's a spiritual one, where you're being told by God to do a certain thing and you just don't really agree with it or something like that. Because I think the spiritual aspect of taking advice or the parental one, I think they're just like completely different ballparks, because both kind of, when talking about people who have decent relationships with their parents or guardians, there's a certain level of intimacy with that advice. But I'm speaking about people who may not really know you on that intimate level. Like, sorry, I'll tell you what I think about your advice. I'll be like, okay, I appreciate that. I don't really think it applies in this sense, but thank you for thinking about me. Or if it's a TikTok comment, I'm just gonna block you. I can't lie. If you're being rude as hell, like, I'm gonna block you. And if you come back to my page again in another account, I'll block you again. I'll keep blocking and blocking and blocking and blocking. Anyways, I feel like I'm getting a bit carried away with the whole blocking and blocking and blocking and blocking. Like, it's jeez, calm down. It's okay now. It's okay. Try. Never that serious. It quite literally is never that serious. But an elderly person is giving you advice and you're thinking in your head, this person's chatting absolute rubbish. You're absolutely waffling. That's okay. You don't need to take the advice. Just say thank you for that. Thank you. Thank you. Move on with your life, and in one ear, out the other. That's calm. That's cool. I think that's the conclusion I had to come to myself, just to like get to a sense of sanity. You don't have to always also openly express to someone, I'm not going to take your advice because I believe in myself. Yeah, screw you. Guys, it's never that, like, you don't have to vocalize everything, because you're almost kind of just being a hypocrite, because they didn't have to vocalize all that either, yet here they are. Talking too much. And there you are. Talking too much. And sometimes you just need to firm it and then move on with your life. Well, we can talk about the whole dynamics of being in that weird in-between age where you're old enough to be independent, but you're still, you know, in an environment where you can't fully express that or manifest that. But for now, I'd say one of the main way to kind of block out and tackle external validation is not just knowing who you're speaking to, but knowing who they are speaking to. Learn yourself. Learn what drives you crazy in a good way. Learn what drives you insane in the worst ways. Learn what triggers you. Learn what doesn't. Learn what has worked in the past. Take note of what has not. Those are the things that will help you build and develop your discernment more than any sort of book that you can read. Read your own mind. Continuously reflect on past experiences and how you dealt with them, because I think for me, I think that's the best way I could learn who the hell I was. Because if you know who the hell you are, like I said in the last episode, when you know who you are and you know what you bring to the table's not gonna shake, right? Same thing applies here. If you know who you are and you know what kind of person you want to be, you'll be able to pick out the seeds that are fertile and that will germinate when you plant them and nourish them, and you know, invest them at the time and the place that is right. And you'll be able to filter out the seeds that will never germinate, or worse still, you'll be able to filter out the invasive crops that are just going to come and take over everything that you had planned for yourself, or question everything that you ever once knew about yourself. You'll be able to do that with ease when you know who the hell you are, when you know what kind of soil you have, when you know what kind of sun levels, when you know the precipitation levels. Guys, I swear, why do I keep referencing the farm? I did this in episode 1. I've never been on a farm in my life. I keep talking about, oh no, the soil. No, what soil? What soil? We have a garden in our backyard. God knows I've not done anything except go outside and be like, nice. And then eat the strawberries in summer when they grow. I don't know anything. I don't know farming for dust. Yet here I am, making another farming reference. Get back to me in the next episode. Let's see which one I accidentally come up with the next time, because I'm actually sick and tired of myself. This is so embarrassing. Like, who the hell do I think I am? Like, what is actually going on? Crazy. But basically, the essence of what I'm saying is just like, when you know who you are and you know yourself properly, your brain kind of just becomes selectively permeable to information. You'll know what makes sense and you'll know what doesn't, and you'll be able to take the necessary steps from there. And that is it. That's the fact of the matter. Without referencing the farm, not even once. Period. I have a bunch of fake plastic plants from IKEA and I think I know shit about plants and farming. Guys, I'm such an imposter. Please, Arrest me. I mean, when your brain becomes oversaturated with other people's opinions, there's not going to be any space for you to relay those opinions and that advice back to yourself and to create feedback for yourself and recalibrate and redirect yourself where you need to go. You won't have space for that because it's filled with so many other people's BS just bouncing around your head. It's too much. You're overstimulating yourself. Calm down. Calm down. Do you guys know that reference, or am I just like in the depths of old TikTok? I don't know. At the end of the day, I think the final lesson that I just want to drive home, based on the quote that I mentioned in the beginning about how it's not humility to shrink and deprive the world of everything that you are, remember that that quote to me could not be any further from the truth. It is not humility, it is obstructing your authenticity. Learn yourself. Find your strength, and everything else will fall into place, including the advice, even the unwarranted ones. Sometimes they're actually kind of necessary. Sometimes you could give a little side eye like, I didn't ask for that. But also you might look back at it in a week's time and be like, hold on, they were kind of cooking. They were actually kind of spitting facts. So yeah, learn yourself and everything will fall into place. And that is basically all I had to say today, guys. I know you guys are happy to see this part because it means it's the outro and she's done talking and she's gonna shut up. Woo! I know, I'm just as excited as you. The way the bed is looking at me and I'm looking at the bed. Ooh! The way I'm fighting sleep. Guys, I really need to sleep. But thank you so much for listening to my second episode of the Black Sheep podcast. I've been your host, Keziah. I hope you guys are enjoying listening to them as much as I enjoy recording them. And yeah, I'll catch you in the next one. Okay? In a bit.